So it happens to be that if we were to overlap a map of energy consumption, we would see that these countries are also, almost in the same order, the countries that more energy consume per capita. So we're talking about opportunities in Latin America, and we're talking about what drives these opportunities. And we say that policy drives these opportunities, and policy comes when we are polluting and we're embarrassed with the rest of the world, or we have some reason to promise that we're going to reduce emissions. And a lot of it has to do with population and the way population continues to increase. And this is a logarithmic scale, but you can tell that the population increase in Latin America, in Asia, and in Africa are the most interesting, if we can say that. We say that we continue to procreate in these countries, and Latin America is one of the places that, because of overpopulation, we have a high increase in consumption, we have a need for energy, oil is running out, so we need to produce energy somehow, and this is how we arrive to Latin America, as a place where there are opportunities for clean tech, based on the definition that we had at the beginning. Anybody has heard about the Environmental Performance Index? It's an index that was developed between Yale and I believe it's the Columbia University. They're basically telling you how good these countries are in terms of doing something for the environment. They use about 26 different indicators. 3 of them are directly related to climate challenge. One of them is emissions per capita, the other one is emissions per electricity generated, and industrial carbon intensity. And in the top 50 we have Mexico, Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil. It is a funny list because in the top 50 we almost have the whole of Latin America. The problem is that we don't have them in the top 10, meaning that we're not doing enough according to the Environment Performance Index. So basically there's a series of recommendations that come from this analysis, and these series of recommendations basically involve the use of alternative energy. Now, if we look at Latin America has 569 million people in 20 countries, and I believe there's 4 dependencies, not really officially countries. And we have the most crowded cities in each one of these countries. We can see that Mexico City and Sao Paulo are the most crowded cities, and then we have Bogota, Lima, Santiago, Buenos Aires. And these are the countries that are also investing in clean technology at this point. So there is a relationship between the way the population is growing and what the country is trying to do to meet the need for consumption. Now, we're going to talk about Mexico. And how are we doing with time? We're okay? All right. Are you tired? No? Do you have questions? No? Okay. I'm a genius. Okay. Well, in terms of, a lot of this information came from Wikipedia, I need to acknowledge that. It's fantastic. By the way, go and give money. Anyway, Mexico is one of the most crowded countries in the world. It's number 11, I believe. It's number 12 polluter in the world. And right now, the president, Felipe Calderon, he went to Copenhagen. And he's doing whatever he can to make Mexico look better than what it really is. And one of the things that he's doing is he's pledging emissions reductions. He's already pledging 50% reductions by 2050 using 2000 levels, meaning he's going to reduce 320 million tons of CO2, meaning he's going to, it's equivalent to removing 61 million cars between now and 2050. The way he's doing this, he's proposing a new program for the utilization and, how do you say, aprovechamiento de energía renovable, renewable energy. What? Well, you know, he has a whole program where he's working with everybody to do this. And one of the things that he's doing, he asked his Minister of Environment, Elvira Quesada, to request Congress about 0.56% of Mexico's GDP. 0.56%. This is a very interesting fact because, you know, the GDP of Mexico is $1.5 trillion. And countries like China are, have said also in Copenhagen, that they're going to invest close to $1 trillion in clean tech between now and 2020. 2/3 of Mexico's GDP is going to go to clean tech. And we're asking Congress for 0.56% of the GDP to fight climate change. I don't know, I just think it's a funny thing. Where do the emissions come in Mexico? Most of the emissions come from the energy sector. A lot of it comes from waste, deforestation, industry, agriculture, but most of it comes from energy. This is information from the Instituto Nacional de Ecología, which is part of the Secretary of Environment. And then from energy, 20% comes from transport, and 33% comes from all the thermoelectric and all the huge and very polluting plants that we have in Mexico. So what's going on in Mexico right now? What is it that we're trying to do? Well, the president goes to Copenhagen, sits down next to Norway, and starts putting together a new proposal for funding, and they promote the creation of a green fund. You ever heard of that thing? This is a kind of a cool idea. The green fund is something where everyone's going to put money in, everybody, and I mean every country that's going to sign the Copenhagen or the Mexico Agreement, whatever it's called at the end of the day. They're going to put money in according to the GDP of each country, and also according to the amount of emissions per capita. This amount of money that they put into a common fund is going to be used to fund mitigation and adaptation programs in developing countries. But also developed countries can take money out of it, but can take out just half of what they put in. And then developing countries can take out twice of what they put in. Basically, if Mexico puts 100 million, they can use 200 million to fund climate change programs. But when they talk about funding climate change programs, they're talking about funding CleanTech projects too. So this idea is kind of being accepted right now. They're fighting with Brazil, but they are. It's very likely that some form of it is going to make it at the end. And the other thing that the president did, I believe this was the day before yesterday. When was it? Oh, the 12th, on Saturday. It's when the president committed to pay. Mexico will pay from their own pocket, without any financial aid from any other country, for reducing 50 million tons of CO2 every year. This is what we were talking about at the beginning, which is an impossible scenario for Mexico. So right now, Mexico, in terms of alternative energy, we use 3.3% of our energy matrix comes from renewable sources. And the goal of the government is that by 2012, we're going to have 7.6%. The goal of California is 30% by 2020. It's 20% by 2012. The goal of China is 20% by 2020. And when we talk about 20% of China, we're talking about 100% of Mexico. That's equivalent. But Mexico is committed to 7.6%. It's not necessarily an issue of political will. It is also a cultural problem, and it's also the way the political and economic system in Mexico is structured. But that is the commitment. So what's going on in Mexico right now? We have the wind farms in Oaxaca, we have wind farms in Baja California, we have one more in Los Vergeles in Tamaulipas being built. Right now in Mexico, as I said, it's 3.3% of renewable energy, but most of it comes from 3 or 4 wind farms that we have in Oaxaca. The idea is to continue building these. There's 3 huge projects in Oaxaca, and the idea is to build up to 2 gigawatts of wind power. In Sonora, we have a company called Biofuels. You ever heard of this company? It's an awesome company. You know what biofuels are? By any chance, anybody doesn't know what biofuels are? Even if you don't. Thank you. Because everybody else knows, we're not going to tell you. No, basically, we're trying to find alternative fuels, right? We're trying to find fuels that are derived from not fossil fuels, right? Not from oil, basically. So people are using, in Brazil, they use sugarcane. In Mexico and the US, they use corn. And there are a few companies that are trying to exploit what is called third-generation biofuels. And the third-generation biofuels, first they were created because everybody was trying to fight and argue that if you use corn, what are you going to feed the people? Prices are going to go up, and they were kind of right. But they started thinking, well, what can we do? We can use algae. And the third-generation biofuel, this company, Biofuels in Sonora, they're basically creating bioethanol using algae. And it's a pretty cool process. I have a little slide after this one, so I'll explain you then. But just so you have an idea, there's a company called, I forgot the name of the company, that does algae-based bio.